The recent United Kingdom election results have confirmed a stark reality. The era of stable majorities is over. This is not merely a change in who holds power, but a fundamental breakdown in the state's ability to execute long-term strategy. We are witnessing a shift from a predictable political machine to a system of permanent negotiation. By the end of this analysis, you will understand how this fragmentation creates a governance failure that destabilizes global energy markets and supply chains, turning the UK into a high-latency partner for international business. To grasp the magnitude of this shift, we must look at the data from the 2024 election. The results reveal a complete collapse of the traditional two-party dominance that defined British politics for decades. The Conservative vote unraveled, and no single party secured enough seats to govern without relying on a coalition. This outcome is not an anomaly, it is the statistical signature of a fractured party system. When you analyze the seat distribution, you see a pattern where the winning party commands a minority of the popular vote, yet faces a parliament where every legislative move requires dynamic, runtime negotiation. The state has moved from a deterministic system to a non-deterministic one. Here is the thing that most political commentators miss. They focus on the personalities, the scandals, and the daily headlines. They treat the election as a game of who wins the most seats. But the real story is structural. The fragmentation has destroyed the single source of truth for national strategy. In the past, a government could commit to a 10-year industrial roadmap or a long-term foreign policy alignment. Today, the executive branch is in a state of constant internal negotiation. Every policy decision is hostage to the survival of the coalition. Resources that should be spent on external execution are consumed by internal bargaining. Consider the analogy of a distributed computing system. In a robust network, you need a stable leader or a consensus mechanism to ensure that when one node fails, the system continues to function without data loss. The UK political system has lost its stable leader. It is now operating in a state of livelock. The nodes are active, they are processing requests, but they are spinning their wheels. They are negotiating with each other rather than processing the external world. This means that for any major infrastructure project or energy transition, the state cannot guarantee continuity. The latency is too high. The risk of a rollback is too great. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This structural failure has direct consequences for global energy and supply chains. International partners do not negotiate with political parties, they negotiate with state capacity. When a government cannot pass a budget or ratify a trade agreement without a months-long crisis, the predictability required for long-term investment evaporates. A company planning a new wind farm or a semiconductor plant needs to know that the regulatory framework will remain stable for the next decade. If the UK state is locked in permanent negotiation, that framework becomes a moving target. The risk profile shifts from manageable to unacceptably high. The 2024 election data supports this view of systemic instability. The fragmentation means that the legislative majority is insufficient for stable policy. We are seeing a pattern where short-term coalition survival tactics override long-term industrial roadmaps. This is not just a domestic issue, it is a failure mode that exports instability. Global markets rely on the UK as a key node in the European energy grid and a hub for financial services. When the UK regulatory environment becomes erratic, it creates a ripple effect. Partners in the United States and the European Union must treat the UK as a high-latency service with frequent rollbacks. They cannot rely on British commitments. Now consider the specific mechanics of this paralysis. In a traditional system, a government can sign a contract and know it will be honored. In the new fragmented reality, that contract is conditional. It is conditional on the next vote, on the next coalition partner, on the next internal crisis. This uncertainty forces global partners to demand higher premiums for risk. They will build redundancy elsewhere. They will diversify their supply chains away from the UK. The state loses its leverage. The ability to project power through economic agreements is diminished because the state itself lacks the coherence to follow through. This is the critical insight that connects the election results to your daily life. The erratic nature of UK policy is not just about which party is in charge. It is about the state's inability to function as a reliable counterparty. When the executive branch is consumed by internal negotiation, it cannot manage external threats. It cannot plan for the future. The result is a governance model that is reactive rather than proactive. It is a system that reacts to the immediate political crisis rather than addressing the long-term structural challenges of energy security and industrial competitiveness. The engineering analogy holds true. Without a stable majority, the state cannot commit to long-term contracts. It is like trying to build a skyscraper on a foundation that is constantly shifting. The project might start, but the cost of delays and redesigns will eventually make it unviable. This is what is happening to the UK's industrial strategy. The fragmentation creates a failure mode where the cost of coordination is higher than the benefit of the policy. The state becomes a bottleneck rather than an enabler. This shift from a stable majority to a fragmented landscape eliminates the predictability needed for complex industrial planning. It forces a recalibration of how global alliances interact with the UK. The country is no longer a reliable anchor in the region. It is a volatile variable. For businesses and governments alike, this means a fundamental change in risk assessment. The UK is now a place where policy is a negotiation, not a directive. And that changes everything about how the world engages with British power. The data from the 2024 election confirms that the UK has entered a phase where the state is structurally incapable of executing long-term policy. The fragmentation is not a temporary glitch, it is the new normal. The permanent negotiation state is here to stay, and until the political system finds a way to restore a stable executive, the UK will remain a high-latency, unreliable partner in the global economy. The stakes are high. The cost of this instability is paid by every business and every citizen who relies on the state to deliver on its promises. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.